putting on a smile for the cameras.
The person that the members have chosen is Vaughan Gething.
But the reign of Wales's new First Minister has so far been dogged by controversy.
Do you regret now, with hindsight, taking that money as a campaign?
There have been questions over donations. This isn't the greatest start to your leadership, isn't it?
It just doesn't look good, does it?
Questions over who bankrolled his leadership campaign just won't go away.
This donation should not have been accepted.
He's received a donation from someone who's got 2 criminal convictions for environmental damage, and he's quite happy to take that £200,000.
Did the First Minister ask who it was from? This is an unprecedented amount of money. There should have been questions asked.
With the general election campaign in full swing, what could the fallout be?
You've got a political question about how damaging that could be to Labour's prospects in Wales, but also in the broader general election campaign.
This week, as the First Minister faces a fight for his political survival, we uncover new revelations that dig deep into the donations row. Where there's muck, there's brass. Money made from other people's rubbish. But the company behind this site has caused a stink that stretches all the way to the office of the most powerful politician in Wales.
And now we turn to the Oscar bit, where we announce who's won this tremendous contest. And the person that the members have chosen to be that person is Vaughan Gething. Congratulations.
It's less than 3 months since Vaughan Gething won his dream job.
We turn a page in the book of our nation's history. The question for us today is Beth Nessa. What is next?
What's next does really matter. Up until now, the questions for Vaughan Gething have focused on what one of his donors did in the past. But we can now reveal that one of that millionaire donor's companies is currently under criminal investigation, and was when Vaughan Gething accepted the sum of money, the largest ever donation to a Welsh leadership campaign. That puts Mr Gething under even greater scrutiny and further questions his position. Last December, Mr Gething and his opponent, Jeremy Miles, launched their leadership campaigns for the top job. But it wasn't long before one of the runners became embroiled in controversy over links to waste company boss David Neil, a long-standing Labour supporter. Days into the race, Vaughan Gething was given £100,000 from David Neil's company. The following month, another £100,000. During the contest, it emerged that Mr Neil had twice been given suspended prison sentences for environmental crimes in 2013 and 2017. While some in his party defended the First Minister,
Vaughan didn't break any rules in that leadership campaign, and we're just looking forward to getting on with the general election campaign.
others in Labour's ranks questioned his judgment.
These are for individual candidates to answer about individual donations which they accept. I would not have accepted it, but, you know, those questions are not for me.
It would not be a sign of weakness to say it was a mistake to take the donation, and now all the facts are known, to give it back.
Well, I think in the first instance it was wow, given the scale of the donation in the Welsh context.
Opposition parties were quick to react.
There were two things we called for. One, an inquiry, which I wrote to the First Minister to ask him to review the ministerial code. And secondly, we do believe that the First Minister, on reflection, should have paid this money back.
Now, the way I look at it is this. You're offered a tenner to your campaign and you say thank you very much and you hope to spend it wisely. You get offered £200,000. The level of due diligence that you would expect to take place in that context would be significant. But Vaughan Gething, for whatever reason, decided that that didn't matter.
But the new First Minister was adamant. No rules had been broken.
There are no questions about my integrity that are real or legitimate here. I have been honest throughout this about what I have done and why, and I've been entirely honest about that. It's something that I take seriously in my professional career before coming here.
But questions are still being asked, and pressure is building from all directions.
Make no mistake, the Labour Party has changed.
With an election looming, how will the row surrounding the First Minister play out?
The Labour Party are going to do everything they can to try and suppress this issue, and they'll want to squash it as soon as possible.
Political commentators are watching every move.
Labour HQ in London will be extremely conscious about ensuring that nothing distracts from Keir Starmer's message, which is change, which is transparency, which is the restoration of probity into public life. All of those things clash with this story, and whatever you think of the rights or wrongs of the story and whatever actually happened, the perception cuts against that.
Mr. Gething may not have broken any rules, but does all of this pass the smell test? One of waste boss David Neil's companies has been causing a stink in Pembrokeshire too, quite literally.
We've lived here since I was 10. We came to Pembrokeshire for a better quality of life.
Jenny and her family live in one of the most beautiful parts of rural West Wales, but for months they haven't been able to enjoy their surroundings.
Yesterday, when I came out of the house to go to work, I was hit with this horrible stench, rotten eggs, and I then held my breath until I got to the car. It was horrible, and when I got to the car, my lips started tingling. We've been shutting the window because we don't want to wake up to my house smelling of rotten eggs, which is worse than my son's nappies.
I hold my breath, and then when I don't, I...
Does it get really smelly sometimes? Does it get really smelly sometimes?
Yeah.
The source of the stench is around a mile away from their home. This is the Withy Hedge landfill site run by one of David Neil's companies. Rubbish from around the country is dumped on the site.
To have this as our reality, I don't want that for my kids. I wouldn't have moved back if I knew that that was going to be our reality. You can see the vast size of the site. You see the videos. My biggest concern is that it's not being managed as it should be.
I flew the drone over there to have a look at a bit more closer. This is just commercial waste picked up from wherever. We don't know what's in that at all.
Colin lives a mile from the tip with his partner Sue. They want to know what's causing the stench.
It's horrendous, it's rancid, it's almost like you can taste it.
It's an inescapable stench that makes you retch. There have been days when we've just got to go out.
That's pulverised stuff there. And this is where they drag it out to, on the landfill site itself.
For 7 months, Colin has been filming and complaining to the regulator, Natural Resources Wales, about the site. He also started an online campaign.
When the drone footage that I took went public, they went back onto that site and started investigating it a bit more.
Stop this thing! Stop this thing! Stop this thing!
Locals demanded action from David Neal's company, and he agreed to meet them.
I will confirm there is nothing going into that site that's not allowed to. It's all non-hazardous. I will confirm that. NRW come to site very often. They see with their own eyes what we are doing. They can take their own samples themselves.
Very early on in a public meeting, he stood up and said, I want to be a good neighbour. If this is being a good neighbour, forget it, just go away.
Hundreds of complaints daily have been made about the tip. Public Health Wales went on to issue a warning that odours from the site may be harmful to health and suggested keeping doors and windows closed. They also advised people to seek medical help if they were worried.
Public Health Wales are saying to shut windows and doors because it could be toxic gas. So how many kids' health are going to be potentially affected?
What are the precautions you've had to take?
Deliberately not being at home on a day when the smell is really bad.
Stop the stink. You know, they refer to irritation, people having to close their windows, unable to go outside. Do you acknowledge that it's perhaps more of an issue than just an odour?
The odour is hydrogen sulphide that's been identified. We are working with other public bodies, including Public Health Wales, the local authority, who have a role in public health as well, and the Health Board as well. Any impact on health can be anxiety, and concern. You know, that's the risk that's posed because of the uncertainty that people currently have. Our investigation is ongoing.
It's not the first time that David Neal's companies have been investigated by the regulator. On the outskirts of Cardiff in 2013, there was trouble at this site.
Officers from what was then the Environment Agency uncovered serious breaches of regulations.
The company admit they stored about 19,000 tonnes of waste illegally in an adjacent field.
Pictures of that mess made headlines. At the time, David Neal pleaded guilty to offences likely to cause pollution or harm to human health. He was given a 3-month suspended jail sentence, and the companies were fined. The waste site is in Vaughan Gething's constituency. In 2016, he wrote to Natural Resources Wales on behalf of the company, asking them to reconsider restrictions. But the following year, David Neal was back in court because the company had failed to clean up the mess. This time, he was given a year-long suspended jail sentence. Not long after this, Vaughan Gething made his first attempt at becoming First Minister.
We're in the fortunate yet challenging position of having had Welsh Labour leadership for nearly 20 years. And in that sense, I think I'm in a positive place. You know, I'm a different generation to people that came here in 1999.
He was ambitious, but he needed financial backers for his campaign. While waste boss David Neal was still serving his suspended sentence, Vaughan Gething accepted £80,000 in donations from his companies.
One has to ask, what did he think he was going to be getting in return from Vaughan Gething? Because whilst the First Minister insists that he has done nothing wrong and that strictly he has stuck to the rules, one would have thought that somebody paying that much money would want something. And it's that causes the questions here. Why is it that a First Minister would be so happy to leave himself wide open to such obvious accusations of some kind of improper relationship. It just adds up to being very poor judgment.
But that wasn't the only donation to raise eyebrows.
So there's no issue with subsidence with that because you just take away the intent.
Another came from a millionaire who promised to turn this iconic building in the heart of Vaughan Gething's constituency into a luxury hotel. This is Lawrence Kenwright.
Wow. It's like the Sistine Chapel.
He had a bold vision for the crumbling coal exchange. But concerns about his company, Signature Living, had earlier been raised by the local Labour MP, Stephen Doughty.
I became increasingly concerned about their suitability as a developer and the nature of their assurances, which seemed to vary with every single meeting.
Despite this, Vaughan Gething went on to accept £21,000 from the company for his leadership campaign against Mark Drakeford. The businessman also tweeted that Vaughan Gething had cleared a path for them to come to the Welsh capital. On that occasion, Vaughan Gething was beaten into second place in his leadership bid. Signature Living went into administration in 2020, and 4 people connected to the company are being investigated by the Serious Fraud Office. And the would-be leader would soon be on the hunt for more backers. Fast forward to his successful leadership campaign earlier this year, and Vaughan Gething was again looking for donors to help bankroll it. That's when another of David Neil's companies stepped in, making 2 payments totalling £200,000. It's since emerged that a day before the final £100,000 payment was made, another company that Mr. Neil controls wrote to the Welsh Government, setting out its intention to build a solar farm on the Gwent Levels. The plan is to develop it next to his waste site in an area of special scientific interest, a nature conservation area.
This opens the door to thinking that undue influence may have been used. The receipt of such a huge amount from somebody who had been found guilty of an environmental offence, and then the company was seeking permission from Welsh Government to build a solar farm. Another layer of troubling evidence in people's minds that something didn't feel right. All taken together, surely the alarm bells should have been ringing for Vaughan Gething.
Vaughan Gething has not broken the ministerial code by taking £200,000 from one of David Neil's companies. But it also emerged during the race that before handing over the generous donation, another of his firms had been given £400,000 in loans from the Development Bank of Wales, which is wholly owned by the Welsh Government.
Why would you borrow £400,000 and then some months later make a £200,000 leadership donation to a politician? I think the general public, not unreasonably, don't like the smell or look of that.
As a party, the Conservatives have in the past been criticised over the source of some of the money that you've been loaned. Are you in a position to criticise Vaughan Gething again for something which isn't illegal?
Well, it's my job as the leader of the opposition and the Conservative leader in the Bay to put these questions to the government. And the government, headed up by Vaughan Gething, obviously, who fought a leadership campaign, and the public are asking those questions.
After winning the top job, Vaughan Gething was all smiles. But taking the cash raised questions about his integrity and whether rules had been broken.
I asked for an investigation, and the investigation advised me that there was no breach of the ministerial code. So there has been an investigation, and the answer was provided to me in unambiguous terms.
And the former First Minister, Carwyn Jones, has been asked to review whether the party needs to change its rules on campaign funding. But those questions about Mr Gething's judgment just won't go away.
There have been questions over donations. This isn't the greatest start to your leadership, isn't it?
You'll be going into this new job with these questions hanging over you. It just doesn't look good, does it?
The way that the story has been run, with a suggestion there must be something going on, actually, it's impossible for me to do that. I cannot make a decision as a minister in my constituency.
David Neil said his company supported Vaughan Gething's campaign because they felt he was the best person for the job. But the businessman has been reluctant to talk about it on camera.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about your donation, if possible, to Vaughan Gething.
Not now, please. Not now. We've made a statement today.
It's a lot of money, £200,000. Why have you made such a large donation to Mr Gething?
We've made a statement about it today.
And in that statement, he denied engaging with Mr Gething or his ministerial department regarding any of their business plans or applications, and told us they've never requested or expected anything in return for donations. There have been repeated calls for Vaughan Gething to hand back the £200,000 donation.
The people of Wales are making it clear that they believe this is not right, and that's why 70% in another poll recently said they believe he should pay the money back, as we've called for.
We can also reveal that a senior Labour figure offered to lend Vaughan Gething £200,000 so he could repay the controversial donation, because they were so unhappy he'd accepted it in the first place. But Mr Gething turned down the offer. So the money wasn't returned to David Neil's companies. And at the end of the campaign, there was £31,000 left in the kitty. Under the rules, it should have gone to Labour's central party coffers. But one Labour MP was clear about what would actually be happening.
We're not taking that money, we're very clear about that.
You wouldn't have touched it?
We're definitely not going to touch it.
Instead, it's been given to progressive causes.
The National Party has been quite clear that they don't want to be associated with it. Vaughan Gething has had to try and unify the party in the past 3-4 months. He's not been able to do that because this scandal has been hovering over him, and we've seen that play out drip by drip, month by month. And that just increases the questioning that goes on in members' minds in whether he's the right leader and whether they want to support him.
Away from the political fallout, in Pembrokeshire, Jenny and her family are worried about what's on their doorstep.
I'm someone that will get more upset on other people's behalf than on mine. It's not fair that people are trying to sell their homes and they say that people don't even get in the house because they get back in the car and turn around because of the smell. It's a county that's really dependent on tourism, and it's potentially going to affect our economy. Like, I wouldn't be wanting to pay for a cottage in this area in the summer with the current smells that are coming out.
Public meetings continued, and so did questions for David Neil.
But are you currently compliant with all the conditions of your licence for that site?
It's definitely not a no, that's for sure. But there are some complexities working through with the regulator.
Okay, can you explain?
Fairly sure they're probably very surprised they've had such fierce resistance from a rural area that they thought was quite small in the small villages surrounding it.
David Neil's company has apologised to locals and says they've identified potential sources of the odours and these won't be accepted on site in future. Dumping has stopped while work is carried out.
Everybody's saying it's not acceptable, but we're still living with this stink. You need to be accountable for what you're saying and get this stuff sorted is all I can say.
Natural Resources Wales have been investigating on the site since the end of last year.
We have told the company they're required to address those odours. They have come forward to us with proposals, and they have subsequently undertaken work on site to meet a regulatory notice that we've issued with them. We've issued kind of 3 notices so far. The first one was complied with just ahead of Christmas, and then we've issued 2 further ones since.
Those notices were aimed at stopping the stink, but then NRW widened their inquiries and began a separate investigation, which could lead to prosecution. Have you identified serious breaches of licences at the site?
We have identified issues of concern late last year.
Can you tell us about those at all?
I'm unable to go into that detail.
And is there enforcement action pending?
The company's under investigation at the moment.
We've discovered that it is a criminal investigation, a fact that will pile more pressure on the First Minister. That's because it started last December, at the same time that one of Mr Neil's companies was bankrolling his leadership campaign. We also know that 2 Welsh Government ministers were briefed about the investigation by Natural Resources Wales before Mr Gething became First Minister. Those briefings with Eluned Morgan and Julie James took place in February, weeks before he won the top job. So did Mr Gething know about the criminal investigation? We'd had no response to our questions, so we caught up with him at the Urdd Eisteddfod.
So we're here from QC Wales Investigates. We'd just like to ask you some... Not too bad, thank you.
I've got to go to...
We've just got some important questions about your political donations.
I've answered lots of questions about donations, and I'm here at the Urdd to meet investigators. I've got lots of people to see, and I'll be more than happy to answer more questions in the Senate.
Sure. Mr Gething, we've discovered that a company controlled by David Neil was the subject of a criminal investigation back in December.
This way.
When you accepted the donation. Were you aware that criminal investigation was underway when you accepted the money? Should you have known? What's your response to that?
They subsequently issued a statement saying these issues have previously been addressed by Vaughan Gething and are a matter of public record. It's been a turbulent time for the leader. Plaid Cymru ended its cooperation agreement with Labour because of the donation controversy. And this week, there'll be a crucial vote taking place in Wales.
We have put a vote of no confidence down in the First Minister because we do think there are questions to be asked around his judgment, and it'll be for members to listen to the debate and judge accordingly how they want to vote.
But why will you do that? Because it's not going to change the numbers, it's not going to change who's in charge in the Senate.
Well, it's simple. Do you have confidence or don't you have confidence given the actions the First Minister's exercised?
The question now is what could such a vote in the Welsh Parliament mean for Labour's general election campaign?
I think the general election works in 2 ways. It's going to increase the scrutiny on Labour figures such as Gething, but it's also going to help him. It's going to ensure that Labour HQ maintain unity in the party.
I'm really looking forward to a new partnership where we can both deliver together for Wales. Thank you, Vaughan.
As the whiff of political controversy lingers for the First Minister, pressure's building for David Neil's company, which remains under criminal investigation. The local council has also started legal action over the Withyhedge site. And for the community there, it seems the stink is still in the air.
I've moved down here for fresh air. And I don't have that at the moment. When I see people's daily lives being affected in a significant way. Something being done about it now could be significant. If it goes on for years and has big consequences.
And more than 100 miles away, what unfolds in the coming days at the Senedd could well have big consequences for Wales's most powerful politician.